have you sacrificed for your farm dream? Was it worth it? We discuss this and so much more with Elizabeth Collins, farm stay operator extraordinaire, on today's episode of Food, Flowers, and Fun, sponsored, as always, by Penlight for Farmers, creating purposeful farm lives full of time, energy, and abundance. If you're the woman who does it all, farm work, housework, bookwork, homework, getting up at the break of dawn, this is the podcast for you.
How do you multiply by fractions now?
Get away from the cares of the day. Free stock, root stock, feed stock, seed stock. Chat with women around the world who raise food, flowers, and fun. With your host, Kay Castrataro. That's me. Well, welcome back to Food, Flowers, and Fun. We are here with Elizabeth Collins from Otter Creek Farm. She actually has a whole farm stay thing called Graceful Acres. So we're going to learn all about her. And this is kind of an interesting version of Food, Flowers, and Fun, because normally I get together with our guests before we have a regular filming, and I get to, learn a little bit more about their lives. And Elizabeth and I did not have the luxury of doing that this week. So this is going to be raw. So, which we're all about here. So that's okay. So Elizabeth, welcome to Food, Flowers, and Fun. How are you today?
Oh, I'm great. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Hey, I am so grateful that you're here. And so why don't you just start out by telling us, who you are, how you get into farming. There's a great midlife crisis story I hear. So I can't wait to hear that.
Yeah. Consolidation of this. So how did I get into farming? Food is how I got into farming, is the simplest way. I grew up in suburbia, Ohio in the late 70s and grew up with a fat-free diet. And as an adult, that wasn't really working for me. I don't think it worked for me then either, but
And how did you know? I don't usually interrupt so quickly, but I think that the health thing with farmers is so critical. So how did you recognize that it wasn't working for you?
And so I was just honestly starving. I was hungry all the time, and I ran a horse farm. I was working and busy all the time in my 20s through my 30s, and it's kind of when organic started becoming popular. Like, it's so funny, like now the way I live, to say, I didn't even know what organic was. And it started to show up in the grocery store, and it was actually had its own little section. And I remembered going through the grocery store aisle and being like, I can't eat anything. There's tons of fat in everything. I literally, there was this whole section of food that was supposed to be better for you. And I actually couldn't eat it based on the way I was brought up to eat. And that was really stressful to me and made me mad. And I was or then you see a cookbook and you're like, there's all these beautiful recipes and this amazing food. Who gets to eat this food and why not me? So it was really just the pure need for nutrients that I didn't know I had. And so when I started to and research wasn't, it was trial by error. It was starting to eat food and then starting to understand fat. And so everything that I learned health-wise was backwards. It's when I started to feel better, or my brain started to, I didn't have brain fog, or I wasn't thinking about food constantly all day. I don't have cravings. I haven't craved food in probably 15 years. If I am craving something, I'm sick, or I actually need something. Versus before I was I always thought, I think about, I used to smoke cigarettes, which this is weird too. So, and I thought about cigarettes every day, all the time, my whole entire day. And the day I quit, I was oh my God, I have all this brain space to not think about that. And so I did this.
When you were one that could just quit cold turkey, is that what I'm hearing? Or
Well, it's interesting. It took a long time. It took a lot of times failing at quitting. But, this is actually like a heart story. I had my horse farm at the time, and well, I had quit for like the 50th time. And well, I taught lessons for kids. So I was dealing with kids and horses. And one of my kids, students' horses got sick. And I had to stay at the barn all night with it. And this like big quote unquote drama, like that we make.
Yep.
And I justified a reason to buy a pack of cigarettes that night because I was like having to stay at the barn and take care of this stressful situation. And he died the next day. And I was so mad at myself. I'll cry telling the story. But I was
Oh,
so mad at myself that I was like, I used him as an excuse to smoke this horse. And I'm going to use him as an excuse to quit. So I sat on his grave and I smoked my last cigarette. And I never, ever, ever, ever thought about smoking a cigarette ever again after that one moment. Fascinating.
wow. So for you, you
Mhm.
had tried quitting multiple times,
Yeah.
and you said like your 50th time. So it sounds like this was a constant
Right.
cycle for a while that,
I don't think I ever wanted to smoke. Like I just did, but then it was like, I don't know, it didn't want to stop. So
well, it becomes a part of your
yeah,
lifestyle too. Like when you get in the car, you smoke. When
yeah,
you go down the street, you smoke. It's
habitual.
just things get associated with it. But that deep
Mhm,
heartrending experience was
mhm,
the thing that made you say, no, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do it with the memory of this animal whose death,
mhm.
was so tightly connected to your mind and cigarettes. Like that's really powerful. Wow, we could go into that and the power of the mind and motive, purpose, why we are driven to do certain things. But I don't want to get away from
I
your
know, digress.
but I notice also though that you said that you got into farming because of food,
Yeah,
and yet you're already working at a horse farm, which in my world as a horse person, that's
yeah.
farming too. So it's just not food farming.
Great, great.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, we're not going to go there.
No, right, 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 right. No, but it was so different. It was about, when I had horses, yes, I guess it is farming, but it wasn't. It was animal husbandry, but it wasn't soil health. It
Ooh,
was
interesting.
about, it was, I don't know, it was about this entertainment thing, this showing thing, it was a little bit more, I don't know the right word. It was
Yeah.
a lot less
I
connected.
use I put it in agritourism is where
Yeah,
I
yeah,
put it
yeah, yeah,
because it's
probably
kind of
same.
a farm-based thing. And
Yeah.
we could also talk about why soil health isn't a thing for horse farmers when really it should be, just as it is for grazers of
Yeah.
any other type of livestock. But we won't go there either today. Okay, so you quit smoking
Oh
and
yeah,
you're having this
yeah.
food experience, and
Yeah.
you're saying, wow, I got to get some fat in my diet. You
Yeah.
start feeling better, and then what happens?
Yeah, so I realized I had lifestyle, like grew up in suburbia, like you thought about cheap food, you thought about how to go to the grocery store for the cheapest amount of money, and that's just how I was raised. And
Mhm.
um, realizing I had mindsets or beliefs that I needed to shift. First that started with like fat can fit into my diet. What does that mean? So starting to like look at that, and this was all like early on. Like now I feel like you can find tons of information about fat, and like I definitely would not have been thinking about lard at that time. It was really just about probably eating like vegetable oils, like fat,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Um, so very basic, but then started going to a farmer's market. And I remember at the time the person I was dating, because like I was in charge of like the grocery stores, the cooking and meal planning and all that was my role. And it was like it took a lot of time and it like was overwhelming. You go to the grocery store and there's all these products and all this stuff to deal with and then money and then it was just too
Yeah.
much. And it wasn't about the joy of eating or the actual sheer fact that we're actually like nourishing our bodies. Like nourishment is
Right.
not part of the equation. So I remember just, and like, now I have a shared budget with someone else, and I was looking at farmers markets and looking at like food prices that were like way out of the range of what we'd been spending. But I looked at our life and I was like, but we go out to dinner and spend $100 for two of us and drink beer, like expensive, fancy beer. And it's like,
Yeah.
maybe our priorities are wrong. So I was like,
Maybe we can stay in a little bit more
yeah,
often and eat different food and still
like
be in the same place financially. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. And I really honestly, it kind of came from a place of like, if that was my role and my responsibility, it needed to be easier. Like this is where some of this was coming from. And so if I went to the farmer's market and there's all this beautiful food and I was worried about price or trying to do all this stuff was like too hard. So I remember like going and getting a dozen eggs and breakfast sausage. And I don't know if at that point I was smart enough to eat sauteed kale with my breakfast or not, but I'm sure I got something bready, some kind of bread. And I made this breakfast for my partner. And I remember like sitting across the table from him and just being like, here's the deal. Like, well, actually, I don't even think I did it. At first, he said to me, like, looked at me, he was like, this sausage is like life changing. And I was like, great, because that's my goal. I'm changing
Because
your life.
because we're eating this now. Your life has changed.
Exactly. So that was like a great first step. And then we actually had a major shift. We moved from Lexington, Kentucky up to New York, to his hometown. And I
Okay.
sold my business. I kind of had this opportunity to break free from everything that I don't ever known. And
Yeah.
not a lot of people get that. I don't have kids. I wasn't married at the time. We were actually planning on getting married because he asked me to move up here. Somehow we thought that was what you should do. I'm no longer with him now, so if that tells you anything. But anyway,
Divorcee right
yeah.
here, so I get it.
So yeah, so it just gave me this opportunity to just, I don't know, right? We were grown-ups, we both had incomes, like why not jump all into food? But I didn't know where to jump in or what to do. So when I moved up here, I actually wanted to do an internship, like at a vegetable farm or something. I just felt like I didn't know enough. And I was like,
Yep.
there's all these cool opportunities. And I did not do it because we had just gotten married. And I thought, probably not the best thing for me to leave for 8 months after we just got married and moved to a new state. So
Could be a little rocky.
yeah, maybe I can take a responsible decision and stick at home. And I got a job. So that I had the opportunity. I sold my business in Lexington. So I kind of had an opportunity to like, what do I want to do? And I wanted to get into food or farm. No, I didn't know I wanted to get in farming at all. Actually, I was quite frankly, I was very excited not to take care of animals. And I was really excited living in upstate New York, not to
Yeah.
take care of animals through a winter of like not breaking water or making sure
Yep.
animals are
Yep.
warm.
I dairy farmed in Western New York
Right.
through high school, so I get it.
All that. Like, I like literally thought I'd never have an animal again. So here I am. And so then I worked for, there was actually a startup grass-fed beef cooperative that started in near where I was living. And I have a business background. I'd run two of my own businesses. And yeah, it was like perfect. It was like, wow, here I get to work for farmers and I get to be in the grass-fed beef sector, which at that point in my life to get grass-fed beef, I was having to ship it from out west. Like grass-fed beef just wasn't a thing hardly.
Right.
So I was like, whoa, this is so super excited. And I kind of thought it was a dream job. And yeah, just kind of thought it was life changing and got into it. And it was a little bit chaotic and it was really hard to run a co-op, yes, and a startup for someone else. It's different when you're doing it for yourself. It's a lot different when you
Yes.
don't get paid by someone else. So anyways, a lot of work for not a lot of reward.
Yep.
And I was about 2.5 years into that and had the opportunity to go to tons and tons of farming and food conferences. Like, so both, I was learning every spectrum from soil health stuff,
Mm.
grazing, so the animal husbandry side for my farmers, and then I was learning food system stuff that it was like blowing at my mind of like, oh,
Yeah.
why we're taught to eat the way we are, and this is why food is that way. So kind of saw the whole big picture,
Mm.
which also opened up the door to like lots of opportunities of like, well, what do you do with all this? And I feel like I probably could have done any one thing. It's kind of like the whole world was my oyster, and what that's hard sometimes. That's not always the easy. It sounds great, but then you're like, oh my god, I could do anything. What do I do?
Yeah, it is really exciting and it can be immobilizing if you let it be. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And and luckily for me at that time, while I wasn't overly, I guess I was in a phase of like personal growth and growing up, I guess, and wising up. I was smart enough to know to like just ride it out and keep learning. I was really enjoying learning everything and meeting people. And then I had a day that the co-op was going through a really big shift of like, kind of like it really needed to close its doors or change its whole model. And I was on board for them either way. Like it was the farmer's decision. And I had to go to upstate, further upstate New York. I'm kind of in the capital district, so
Okay.
way up. And then I had to go all the way up to the top of New York. And yeah, I showed up at this farmer's farm. He was one of my board members. So I talked to him many, many, many times on the phone and participated in meetings and all kinds of stuff with him, but never met him personally or been on his farm. And I like literally opened up the door of my Jeep and put my feet on the ground. And I just had this like total aha moment, God moment, I don't care, whatever you want to call it, moment of like, I am on the wrong side of the computer. Like, I
Mm.
don't want to be managing this for the farmers. I want to be a farmer. Like, it was like so profound and so like undeniable. And I
Mhm.
was like, all right. And that was, I mean, midlife crisis. I didn't know that at the time, but like that
You
was
know,
the first
so you had said it was a midlife crisis, and I'm gonna challenge that just a wee bit
yeah, yeah, please.
because I've had that experience, and the college that I ended up going to was exactly the same thing. I can remember when I stepped onto the campus, like where I was on
Yeah.
Blanchard Lawn, and I stepped on the campus.
Mhm.
And as soon as I did that, I felt this is where I want to be.
Yep.
And wasn't sure I would even get accepted, like all of that stuff, but it was just like I didn't have to do anything else. And I do believe that there are times when God does give you just
Yep.
this is it. I call it the this is it feeling because I've had it a few times with
Mhm.
different things. Starting this business was one of them, but just that like this is where I need to be. And it can often defy reason. Like you can come up with 8 million reasons why that is the dumbest thing you could possibly do. And yet, if you know it in your soul, you gotta go with it or you're gonna be miserable until you take
Exactly.
that step. Yeah. So
Yeah.
so I don't think that was a midlife crisis.
Yeah.
I think that was a moment of
Yeah.
clarity for you.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I fully agree. And I actually thank you for yeah, I know that. And it's happened to me many times in my life. And so you're totally right. I guess it by the time it all transitioned, it felt that way. But yes,
Yes. Well, and it's
exactly
and
right.
people are more familiar with midlife
Yeah,
crisis, so it's a more
seems more
palatable
normal.
phrase, but I want to really affirm this was not like you were having a meltdown.
No,
And no,
no,
you
no.
knew
Yeah, I
this
did.
was where
Yeah,
clarity hit.
you're
Yes.
exactly right. You're exactly right. And it's funny because when I do explain it as a midlife crisis, I always say like, but it sucks for me because everything I did in my whole life was to avoid that midlife crisis. Like I feel like I consciously made choices throughout my whole life to not do that. And maybe I call it that just because of the time of my life, because I was, that was like 2015-ish,
Yeah.
16, probably 16 that I had the awareness. And then it wasn't till 2018 that I was farming. So that 2 years felt like a stinking midlife crisis. It was rough.
Well, that would be because when you have your purpose then and you know where you're supposed to be and
Yeah.
then you're working towards it, especially if you feel like it's being thwarted or you just can't quite get there,
Well, it
that
meant,
can be
yeah,
frustrating.
it
Yeah.
meant I left everything I had. It meant I left my husband. Meant I left my job,
Wow.
everything, and not. It didn't happen. That part didn't happen quickly, but that awareness happened quickly, and I just like I would call it then I physically had a spiritual awakening because I wouldn't have applied all this to that God sense or to a spiritual
Yeah.
and I never had. And that part was missing in my life. And so it
Mm.
was in that 2 year struggle of realizing like, oh, I have to leave the life that I'm in order to fully do what I've been become aware of.
Yeah.
And I had to become aware of where that came from in order to honor and respect that.
Mm.
And so yeah, it was a lot, and mainly because like I didn't want to not be married. Like there was nothing wrong with my marriage. Like he was a
Mm.
lovely man, and we had like the perfect little life. Like I just didn't. I just wanted to farm, and there was no way in hell he was going to come farm. Like we just, it was obvious, and it was very mutual between the two of us. And he was gracious enough to let me go, and whatever. We worked through it, and
Wow.
where do you sit?
Yeah, that's that. So much there to unpack too, because being a divorcee, not in those circumstances, um, yeah, to think about having that like good marriage. It sounds like you had a good marriage, and then just to really have that, not even we grew apart, it was like
Yeah,
all of a sudden I got who I was, and
yeah,
who I was didn't fit this life anymore. And so then you had choices to make.
mm,
And those choices were, do I stay here where it's good?
yeah,
It wouldn't have been a necessarily a bad choice to stay there.
mhm,
Or do I go into where I'm feeling called to go? And that, wow, yeah, we could talk a lot about that, but I will let you. So once you made that decision, you said that was a couple of years. So how did you decide where to go and what type of farming to get into, and how did that all happen?
yeah. So I mean, I guess I was doing a lot of soul searching, right? So we had said like my horse farm, like that was farming, and it's right. Like there were things about that life. Like I never lived on that farm. I leased it. I owned that business from the time I was 20 until I was 30. So I was young. I didn't own a house. I did at some point, but it was like a suburbanite house, and I drove
Yeah.
to my farm and did all that stuff. So
Which is also a very perfectly legitimate way of farming for all of
yeah,
you out there, because people who watch me regularly know that I am big on kind of redefining farming so that we don't have like this one definition, but that if you're doing the act of farming, like if you're growing food, if you're creating beauty, if, you know,
birding, animals.
nurturing animals, like that's farming. Animal husbandry, that's all part of who we were meant to be as farming type people. So anyway, but yes, so you didn't own it, but you operated it for a long time.
Absolutely, for 10 years. So it was just the reflection back of like what I mean, I kind of did the reflection back of my whole life, but especially in that point, I don't know, I worked for myself. It was a successful business. I had a lot of joy in my life. And it was like, what was so joyful about it? Like really defining those things for myself and like, and if this farming thing is what I'm getting called to do, what is it about a farm that I love so much that this life that I have, which I will call it the convenient life, right? Like,
Yeah.
and
Safe.
I was like, I love that forever to-do list. I want to die with a to-do list. Like if I die with a to-do list, I'm gonna feel good. Like that's fine. And yeah, I don't know. There's so many things. So just doing those deep dives into that. So once I was sure about that, and again, there was some like personal, like we did work on some marriage stuff just to make sure because I did holistic management and that really made me aware because I felt very like definitive, like, okay, I'm gonna hang on to the job for long enough until I can like reasonably buy a farm and I can do all this stuff. And I'm like, but marriage is like in the way. They got to like end that and blah, 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 blah. And I did
Mm,
holistic management, which I was supposed to learn about like women farming. And I was like, the whole thing about values and applying values to my life. I was like, wait, I really want a relationship. And I'm getting ready to throw it out the door in front of all these
mm,
other things. That's a problem. So I really had a setback there in a good way that it made me spend we spent at least 6 months, if not a year, of like really revisiting that and me challenging myself, like, okay, maybe we can go buy a farm together. Maybe we can, trying on all these different avenues to
mhm,
fulfill me, but also fulfill the marriage. And and then so when we realized that it was okay for us to go separate paths, then for me it was like, whoa, well now I'm by myself. And farming by myself is totally different. And I owned a house with him in Saratoga. So I had assets. I was old enough that money would have been a challenge, but I could at least gotten my foot in the door. So it's not that I couldn't have afforded one, but it was like, I want to farm with someone. I mean, that was my biggest issue. It was like, I kind of knew I had done my horse farm by myself. And the reason I wasn't still doing it is because I was by myself. And I really wanted someone to partner with me in that way. Like, not
mm.
to make the business bigger, but just someone else that
No,
loves
no, it's this is I'm listening to you and I'm like, oh my goodness, these are the things that I really emphasize with my clients, that first, that purpose, and like what your values are, like how important it is to start with the farmer
Yeah.
and what's important to you, because then you build the farm life around that. And I like that relationship component, like it's a whole component of what I teach, because I believe that relationships, we're communal beings. Like we were meant for relationship. Now that doesn't mean that we were necessarily, everybody has to be married or in a romantic relationship or any of that kind of stuff, but we need to have that companionship and that sharing and iron sharpening iron thing going on with each other. And so I really am just applauding the fact that you took the time to really parse these things out for yourself, even
Yes.
though
Well,
it was
I'll
challenging and is probably took a course that most people would not agree with or understand,
Mhm.
that they'd be like,
Yeah.
well, you're gonna leave a perfectly good marriage to do this farming, and you don't want to do it by yourself. So now what are you gonna do?
Not my
Like
life.
go put an ad for a
Right.
husband? People do
Right.
that. Did you do
Right.
that?
Right.
Farming husband must be,
Yeah.
I actually, my first podcast guest, that's how she phoned her husband. So
Mm-hmm.
is that what you did?
No, it's not. So I actually, there were two choices I had. I did have, so as my marriage was, we were trying to figure that out. I was 38-ish years old when this happened. So I was wise enough not to just like peace out. Like, right, if I wanted to move forward, I couldn't put myself in a position that I was just trying to survive. And so I had asked him, like, he was a very linear guy. Like, I don't know, most men are linear, but he was very secure and very like didn't get outside of his box. I always got outside the box. And so I just asked, my part of my ask of that departure in us was like, I just needed a little bit of time in our house by
Hmm.
myself. So I asked him to move out for just super short term, like give me 4 to 6 months to just figure life out, like figure out what my next moves are without the pressure of trying to live under the same roof with him again. Not that it was bad, but it's just a distraction. I
No,
needed
and it's totally different. Like once you've made that
that.
decision,
Right.
like from personal experience, once you've made that decision, the relationship changes like from that moment. Like I remember the moment that my ex was like, "Yeah, we're not gonna make it." And I remember taking my ring off and giving it to him, and it was like it
Done.
took a
Yeah,
while for the paperwork and everything, but emotionally that marriage was over there. Like
exactly.
it's
It's
very
like that
interesting.
cigarette moment with me. Like it really is visceral,
Exactly.
that it shifts quickly. And I needed to not have a distraction. That was the one thing in my whole life. I'd had nagging feelings in transitions to like take time, but that wasn't taught to women or me at that time,
Anybody.
right?
Yeah.
Anyone. And like literally so many, because I'm not a linear person and because I am a passionate person and I follow my art, someone could look at my life and say like I'm all over the map, or I could tell you like actually I'm pretty true to heart and I'm not spacing out with this stuff. I think when I wasn't at heart was when I went into the convenient, easy, comfortable marriage. The first time
Mm.
I stopped trusting myself and following myself. So again, it didn't put me in a bad position.
No.
I was in a like what everyone else had, and again, everyone seemed like, what the hell's wrong with her? And I just wasn't true to myself.
Yeah.
And so coming back to truth to myself, I needed space. And that's what that 4 months did, of just not distract me, allow me to fall apart and pick up the pieces by myself on my own, and really challenge myself of like, okay, if this is what you're going to do, like, what is it that you want to do? And again, I didn't want to do it by myself. I love people, but I do like working by myself. So there was that mix. And, but I'd never lived in rural anywhere. Like, again, when I had my horse farm, it was rural, but I didn't live
Mm.
rurally. So I've never, and that seems scary to me, is to live out in the middle of nowhere, whether it's
Mm.
by myself or with someone else.
Yeah.
So the farm stay concept, again, I don't know how it got introduced. It's funny that I don't know where, like, there's so many other like really poignant times in my life. And it's like, I have no idea where that actually got injected into my brain, but it was like that was the answer for me to go live in the middle of nowhere with animals and to isolate myself was to bring people to the farm. I also knew at that time I did not want to go to a farmer's market. And again, not because of people. I love it. I think I could knock it out of the park at a farmer's market. I
Yep.
did not want to commit that much time and work.
Oh, I
Yeah,
agree. When I look at people, I grew up on a farm that sold from a farm stand. So
yeah,
we always sold off the farm.
yeah,
And I every time I see people doing like some people do like 6 or 8 farmers
yeah,
markets a
yeah,
week. And I'm like,
right.
how do you even do that? Like the packing up and the prep and then the shipping it and the standing there and being cheerful the whole time and then packing it all back up and driving back and unpacking it. Oh my
I know.
goodness. I
Too
just
much.
look at that and I'm like, that is
I
exhausting.
know.
And it takes a special person to be able to do that over and over and over again. No,
Yeah.
I hear you on that one.
Yeah. So I didn't, yeah. So business wise, I didn't believe that was the way I wanted to do it. But I also like, so again, maybe because I was so conscious about this decision, because I also say about why I started the farm stay. It's like most people have to work off the farm to live on the farm. Like, and I would have to. Like, this is a huge farm. This is way more farm than I need,
Mm,
with way more infrastructure than we need, and we have a lot of bills. So, like, in order for us to live here, I would have had to have an off farm income. But I was
mhm.
like, I don't want to leave. Same thing with going to the farmer's market. I don't, this is what I want. I
Yeah.
don't want to leave it. So how do I generate money that I don't have to go to an off-farm income and I don't have to go to a farmer's market 7 days a week, 6 days a week, 2 days a week, 1 day a week? I don't care. I want to be home. And that part, in my 20s, I would have had no idea about that.
No.
Right. Like that was a wisdom choice of like, yes. And I'm gonna put restrictions on this so that it stays. And again, going back to those values, like at holistic management, I had a whole list of all of my values and the systems I was going to set in place to maintain those values.
Yeah. Oh,
Like
I
that
love
was
that.
really important work. And anytime, and even still, like it still happens in life. And we're actually making a bit of a shift this year of like, oh, yep, we're past startup phase. So I don't get to like brush off that value or brush off that any longer. It's like, it's time. It's
Yes.
have time for my garden. It's time to have time for things. It's time. So,
Yeah.
um,
And I love what you said about the systems because they don't have to be big systems either. Like
mm,
some of these things can be very small and you might even just look at them as habits, but it's still, like
exactly.
I get up in the morning, the kids go to school, I spend time journaling and praying and reading my Bible. Like that's
Yep.
my day needs to start like that because if I go too many days without doing that,
Ah,
everything else falls
mhm,
apart. Like and just taking the time to recalibrate is so critical for me.
right.
And then you add that to all the other values that you have that you want to support with systems. And I love that. So I'm going to ask you because I think a lot of us as farmers, we have systems for our farm.
Mhm,
We have lots of good systems and habits. Like we know exactly when we're going to feed, we know how to clean the barn, we know how to do like the field work, all that we have systems for.
mhm,
We do not have systems for supporting ourselves and taking care of our, like fulfilling our values. So,
right.
can you share one system that is like a value-based system that you've put into place?
Yeah. I mean, well, one is an easy one, like time management. Like if you don't know how to manage your time, learn the skill to manage your time. Like that, if that helps you in the business part of it, the farming part, but also like creating space for you personally. But like a value for me was time with family. I no longer live near my family. And so therefore I needed to make enough money that I could go see my family. So that means I buy a plane ticket to Florida every winter to see my grandmother while she's alive.
Hmm.
My mother lives in Boston. I can drive there, but I have to find a weekend once a year to go there. My dad lives in Cincinnati still, so I fly or drive to Cincinnati annually. So before vacations, before anything else, because I don't have that much, I'm not traveling that much and I don't want to travel that much, but family is an important part and I don't live near family any longer. So
Yep.
my
And do you
calendar,
schedule? So I heard you say, I think you said every winter you were going down to Florida, right? So you had a time of year that you were doing that. Do you have a time of year for your mom and your dad as well that are just like
Pretty much
standard?
everything's pretty much in the winter.
Okay,
It's easier
makes
for me to get
sense.
away.
Yep. But that's again, that's a way that you're saying you're planning it before it ever happens. Like
Yeah.
you're planning the rest of your life so that these things can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And then like, like just to give you an example of like, right, because it's very easy to get into perfection mode or like militant. So like COVID happened. I didn't go to my dad's for 3 years, right? And
Mhm.
it's fine. And he comes here or whatever. It's just, you work with that. And then like, last year I was able to go there, like, but he had come here, so
Mhm.
you just make sure. And if you skip a year, that's fine if there's a justification for it, but just not an excuse. And
Yeah,
then,
or do you do more Zoom calls or phone
right.
calls or, I don't know, something really crazy and countercultural, like maybe you could write a letter.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Wait,
My
I
daughter
know.
and my cousins, my kids and their cousins sometimes write letters to each
Yeah,
other. And I
yeah,
always love that because, I had pen pals growing up and
yeah.
my first
I,
my first like boyfriend was a long distance boyfriend and we wrote back and forth all the time. It was very, very craziness.
but
So, well, it's so funny. Like I'm just realizing how I'm totally dating myself by the fact that I wrote letters to my boyfriend.
definitely, I know you're right.
But I love it.
Technology did not happen then, so it's a lot different now.
Right. But I think that's really helpful. So, yeah, thank you for sharing that. So you had all those systems in place. And then where did you go? So you've got
Yeah, so we
this
had two
vacation.
options. So I was still like, again, like missing piece was this other person. It's like, well, that just has to go on hold. And I had to just trust. And again, my spiritual awakening stuff was happening and I'm still working on that of like even terminology of like where that came from and what does that
Mm,
mean to me and how do I follow that and all of those things and how do I have faith? What does my faith look like? When do
yeah.
I, who am I giving that up to? What am I giving that up to? And in that time, that was still like very new for me. I just
Mm,
had enough faith to be patient and to also what I was realizing at that time what I was working with is like everything I need is in front of me, right? Like
love
so
that.
as I was like, bah, the whole world is at my like, what do I do? Where do I go forward? It was like, what is in front of me right now? And um being in my little house in Saratoga by myself at some point was not, and I was like, I really want to get out on a farm. And like, so I was trying to find a farm apartment or something. There was this older couple that had a goat farm not far from where we lived that I bought stuff from the farmer's market, knew them well. And they had a new grandchild and they wanted to go to California for 6 weeks. So they need someone to farm sit. And I was like, oh, heck, like sign me up. Like, again, like, oh, here's this thing. And oh, by the way, their businesses and farm is for sale and it was 40 acres. It was goat. I didn't know a damn thing about goat except that I loved goat cheese and I know how to.
And they're so bloody cute because
They
they just
are.
jump all over the place and they're just so much fun.
Yes. I mean, I don't have goats right now, if that tells you anything, but I would have been okay.
Yeah,
Um,
I had one once.
yeah. So I went there actually with the intention to buy their business. Most likely, they gave me access to all of their QuickBooks, so I could like look at their business stuff
Wow.
and this is like a two-person team, so I had to figure out what does that look like for me and can I take on this? Can I first of all afford this? What
Yeah.
would my business look like? Because it's fairly turnkey. What would I change? Blah 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 blah. The first 5 weeks of that job, well, it was actually. I want to tell you, my first day there was really interesting because, right, Spirit has called me to do this. Here, I'm so excited. I've made the right decision. I have a 6 week trial. Literally the first morning that I woke up there, I made my coffee. I was like so like loving it. I had to go milk goats that morning and I'd milk goats twice a day, every day. I'd never done anything like that. And I remember walking from the house to the barn and it was not far and kind of having an oh shit moment of like, what
What
the hell
did
have
I
I
do?
done? For the next 6 weeks, twice a day, every day I have to milk goats. And I was like, I really freaked out. Like,
And how many goats did you have?
total like six, not
Yeah,
many.
but no,
Yeah.
but milking six goats
It was
it takes time, and if you don't have all that muscle strength in there,
like,
and you
wow. We had a machine, it was fine, but
Oh, oh,
it was just the
that's better.
responsibility and the commitment. It was
Yeah.
that's all it was. It was like, "Oh my god, like, I don't get to drive to Saratoga and play soccer. I was remember I was living the
Yeah.
convenient life." So it
Yeah.
was this massive realization of, like, all those conveniences. You are in the middle of nowhere, girl, and you have to milk goats twice a day, no matter what is going on, and you're the only one to do it. And I just kind of was like, "What did I do?" But like, it all worked out in that one little walk of like, or I could take my job back and I could go turn on my computer every morning and I could turn on and off my computer twice a day, every single day. Which one do you want to be committed to? Because I was committed. No, I had to work. Like, I don't have like unlimited funds. So not working was not an option. And it was just like, oh. And I swear to goodness, I went out to milk those goats with bells and whistles on every single day for 6 weeks
Wow.
after that one moment of like sheer panic.
Okay. So again, like, oh my gosh, Elizabeth, you're amazing. And really that whole mindset thing, it's like your mindset changed your experience in a
Totally.
moment because you asked yourself a really critical question.
Mhm.
And that was, what am I going to be committed to? Not, am I going to be committed to something? Like, I think that's one of the challenges I see with farmers so much is that we can get so burdened by the work and we can say, it's so hard. It's so much work. I never get time off. We focus on all of the hard
Mhm.
and we forget that, first of all, everybody has hard.
Yeah.
It's just a
Great.
different hard. And so, Weight Watchers, who really works when you do it, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm obviously not
I've
doing it right now,
I've
but
done it. Mhm.
when you follow the program, it's amazing how it works. But they have this whole idea of choosing my hard. And
Mm.
I love that idea because hard is part of life. So what hard do you want? And what about that hard makes it less hard than everybody else's hard? I've said that so much about being divorced and a
Mm.
single mom and all this and owning my own business,
Yeah.
that people are like, well, you could do the easy thing. You can teach because I used to be a teacher. And I'm like, I could do that
Mhm.
and it would kill me.
Yeah.
My soul, it would kill my soul
Right.
because now I do teaching, but I teach adults. I coach more than teaching. And so I get to use all those skills that I really love in a setting that benefits me. Now, there are drawbacks. I have less money, I have less security, I have, all this other stuff. And I get to be home when my kids are sick and I get to work from wherever I happen to be. So if we go traveling someplace, I can take my computer and I can still work. So, like all of these things, it's not that life is easy somewhere.
Mm.
It's what's the hard that is going to be fulfilling for you, which again comes back to those values. I don't want to sit at a computer every day. I want to be outside.
Mhm. Yeah.
Now the goats look really good.
Yeah, exactly. Didn't think anything of it and loved it. Now,
Loved it.
so that part worked, and then but it did take me I was just fascinated to witness myself of like again that life that I had had of like I hadn't done anything with my hands in a long time. I remember washing eggs there. Like I had a whole counter full of eggs. I was like, oh my god, there's so many eggs. I have to wash. That's so stupid. And I actually like remember thinking like how stupid it was that I had to wash this many eggs and like it's gonna take me hours. But again, like this, like these moments that I have of like, all right, I can sit here and be miserable the whole time and I can suffer, or I realized like how long it had been since I had done anything with my hands. Like
Mm.
no different than washing your dishes and actually having an appreciation for that versus sticking them in the dishwasher. And like again, same thing. Like all of a sudden I loved washing eggs and was like, that was amazing. And I like was so calm and grounded and like connected to myself, like washing stupid eggs. Like it was like these like profound moments with like
It's a mindfulness, again, like a mindfulness practice where you're there and when you're actually allowing yourself to experience what you're doing instead of just do it. Like
right,
when you can sit there and you can look and appreciate, wow, you know what? These eggs are kind of cool. Like
kind of
they're
amazing.
they're smooth and they've got this amazing like they're not really ovals. They've got this weird shape going on, and they feel different when they're wet than they do when they're dry. And like, and how satisfying it is to get all the poop off of them and then have them like ready to we could
Oh,
eat these like before you're not going to want to crack and eat that one because it's covered in, chicken
right,
poop. So
right.
like all of this stuff, it's just I think what you're saying, even the water, like
Hmm.
being aware of the tactile nature of our lives, like really rooting into our bodies and our experience. And that does, like, physiologically slow down our breathing, slows down our heart rate, which then reduces our stress, all of these things that just by being aware of what it's like to be washing the eggs instead of wishing you were done with the eggs so you could go do the next thing or saying this is a waste of my time.
Right.
Finding the value in the moment. Oh, I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So I did a lot of that stuff of just really kind of finding myself. And finally, like that last week, and I was getting like nervous because I really wasn't jumping into the business stuff. That was a different part of my brain, right? Like a different part of all that was going on. And I wasn't looking to tap into my brain, I think, in the beginning, but it got there. So literally like that last week that I had, it was kind of like do or die. Like, are you gonna make a, I had to first make business sense for myself and then put together a offer for the farm. And it did, it kind of came together. And there was a girl that had been helping them, so I had lunch with her because I was like, I knew I didn't want to be in the cheese room, like, so I was figuring these things out, like I want to be with the goats, like I can figure out how to take care of goats. I'll have these guys as mentors, like that's easy peasy. I just do not want to be stuck in the cheese room, but this girl did. So talking to her about a partnership, blah blah blah. So enough foundation to say it was affordable enough for me. It was kind of turnkey actually. That I, just kind of, because Saratoga is so stupid expensive, I could basically buy a farm,
Yeah.
half the cost of my house for stupidity reasons. So
Yeah.
anyway, so like it kind of made sense, and I got brave enough without knowing how I was going to do any of it. That seemed like the right thing. I could cows were my passion, but there was no way I could do cows by myself, and I wasn't going to wait around for a guy. So it was like I don't know what to do, so I can do goats, I can do this business, I'll figure it out. And so went to a lawyer, put together an offer. This farm had been for sale for 5 years. No one had ever put an offer on it. I put an offer on it. They, whatever the timeline was, they called me back at the timeline and they took someone else's offer. I was like, what do you mean? You took someone else's offer?
How
Didn't
did you even have somebody else's
no,
offer?
for 5 years. Like there's two offers at once. Like, so like really kind of diminished. Like it was tough for me because I was like, I had to muster up a lot of strength and courage and forward momentum to put that, like, I was committing to the next step,
Yeah.
and I was all in, and it got all like not in. And I was like, oh, I don't know what to do now because like my 4 months in my house is like
Right.
winding down, and I don't feel like asking, like whatever. It was like time. I needed to do something, and
Yep.
that's what I thought I was supposed to do. God told me something different, like, right? Like, right? Totally.
What is it from The Sound of Music? Wherever God closes a door, he opens a window. So
Right, right. And
so he
all it
opened a
was,
window for you, I'm assuming. Where was the window?
well, all it was is I needed more time. Like,
Mhm.
right, like I was in a hurt, like I was 39. I was like, oh my God, I gotta figure this out. And I also didn't, everyone thought I was crazy already. So it was like, but if I can just like get on with it, it'll prove
Wrong.
everyone that I'm not crazy and that I had purpose and I had like there was something going on here. And I just was like, nope. And I went back to that when I first moved to New York State. Like, I just needed to get my hands dirty. And there was something about me that I wanted to be really authentic if I farmed. Like, I
Mm.
didn't want to read books to do pasture management of pigs and chickens and goats and whatever else, cows and all that stuff. Like, I actually wanted to have the hands on. I
Yeah.
love learning from other people. Like, that's easier for me and better for me. I learn through experience, not a book, not a podcast. Not, I do all these things and YouTube, but it's not where my soul really, like, I go there
No,
after.
it sounds like you're a kinesthetic learner. And that's, I mean, as a former teacher, that we have different learning styles and
That's
we learn, each of us learns better with
And
certain approaches. And so just from your describing the hands-on nature of it, it's very kinesthetic.
yeah.
And I gotta tell you, Elizabeth, like I'm sitting here and I'm like, we haven't even gotten to your
Oh,
food today. So we're gonna have you on again. Like we're just gonna have to. But I am gonna pause us here and say, first of all, how much I've really enjoyed your, I'm going to call it your origin story a little bit. Like, I think it's, there's so much there about how you became who you became and what a foundation that is for who you are continuing to become, because you are not done becoming,
Yeah.
like you can see that you are a person who is inspired by growth and you are going to just keep becoming more of yourself as you go. And I love that. So in that spirit, I would like you to help my listeners grow
Yeah.
by ending with my signature question, which is, if you had one piece of advice that you would give to every farmer, what would it be?
If you're gonna do it with joy. You
Ah,
gotta love what you're doing. I'm wincing as I say that. I'm wincing. My whole body is doing lots of different things. That is so heartfelt, but that's a hard thing to hear sometimes. I'm sure there's people that are listening that are gonna it's gonna hurt, but I challenge them to dig into that hurt and either find the joy or find something else.
mm, yeah, and also heartfelt. If people are feeling that way, because I've talked to an awful lot of farmers
Mm.
for whom joy seems an elusive or almost like a unicorn that they can't find anymore. I would say that you should give me a call,
Mhm.
because we can do a very quick, like in an hour, we can probably identify some of the things that are keeping you away from your joy. And that's like, I'd love to help people with that, because I am passionate about making farmers' lives better, and that joy is a part of it. Oh my gosh, Elizabeth, you're amazing. We'll have
Thank
you
you.
on again.
Yeah,
Thank you
great.
so much for
Mhm.
your time today. And thank all of you for joining us today. And we will see you next time on Food, Flowers, and Fun.
How do you multiply by fractions, Mom?
Farmers calling, our show is all done. Goodbye, farewell, so long, adieu. See you next week, same time, same place for Food, Flowers, and Fun. Go in peace. Visit us at www.penlightfarmers.com.